today, when I think of habit, I never think of it as a bad thing. I only think of it as a good thing, because the habits that I have today are what paint the picture of my life on a daily basis.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the How Did It Happen podcast. So happy to have you here as I am with every episode. And before I get started today, I do want to remind you that if I haven't reminded you enough already, that my new book, Ownership: How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck, is available on Amazon. It's also available on my website at mikemalatesta.com, where you can also download a chapter for free, chapter 26, and you can read that and take it for a test drive and see what you think. And if you like it, buy the book. And if you don't, tell me why. If you do happen to buy the book, please consider leaving a review on Amazon, as those are super important for the Amazon algorithm, I'm told, to get the book in front of more people's eyes. So thank you so much for that. And now let's get into the episode. I am fulfilling my promise to you today with another amazing success story. I've got Michael Chernow on the podcast. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So let me tell you why you should be as excited about Michael as well. So Michael Chernow is a restaurateur, a chef, entrepreneur, TV host, fitness personality, podcaster, and family man. And I'm glad you have that in your bio, by the way. I love to see that. Dedicated to inspiring the world through positivity, hospitality, and service. He first began working in restaurants as a teenager and thereafter built a successful career in the industry. He's worked as a bartender, bar manager at Frank Restaurant for 8 years, and met his wife, Donna, while there. And I'm glad you included that as well. In 2017, he enrolled in the French Culinary Institute and graduated with honors, and was awarded an associate's degree in both culinary arts and restaurant management in 2008. Michael co-founded the Meatball Shop in 2009 with childhood friend Daniel Holzman, which now has multiple locations across New York City. Are you outside of New York City as well, Michael? I thought I saw that
We've done a few pop-ups outside of the city, but our restaurants are in New York.
Got it. Okay. And he's also co-authored the Meatball Shop cookbook in 2001, released by Ballantine Books. In 2015, he founded Seymour's, a Manhattan restaurant that combines Michael's love of fishing and culinary expertise, which has also grown to 5 locations. As captain of his own ship, it is in this role where Michael grew his passion and talent for managing and nurturing others, taking advice from everyone, and hiring people to see his vision come to fruition. And in 2006, he co-founded functional beverage brand Well with Sagan Schultz. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, that was 2016.
Oh, did I say 2006?
Yeah, there was a couple of dates there that it got that were a little off, but
okay. In 2016 or thereabouts. So he co-founded that brand with Sagan Schultz and frozen health food mogul Larry Prager of Dr. Prager's. So on the TV side, Michael's hosted 2 seasons of food porn on the FYI network and been featured on shows like Beat Bobby Flay, Chopped, and others. He's also been on a bunch of TV shows like Good Morning America, The Today Show, Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and a bunch of others. He's been featured in many publications like the New York Times, People, GQ, and more. His podcast, Born or Made, great name, by the way, takes a deep dive into the personal backgrounds of leaders and extraordinary individuals. You can find Michael on his website at michaelchernow, CHERNOW.com, on Instagram and Twitter at Michael Chernow, and on Facebook at Michael P. Chernow. So Michael, I start every episode with the same simple question, and that is, how did it happen for you?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that was an intense intro. I really appreciate you going through it all, listening to it. I haven't listened to that from start to finish in a long time. So
my pleasure.
Set my I guess I've got to live up to an expectation of that.
Yeah,
of that
well,
level.
you know, I tell my listeners all the time to expect that we will activate and inspire greatness in them, and that's the simple hurdle you need to get over today. So I think we're going to do that.
You know, I guess I'll just start from way back. From as early as I can remember, I've thought entrepreneurially. I believe that I was born with a high level of emotional intelligence. I'm definitely not the smartest guy in the room. But when it comes to emotional intelligence, my EQ, I am intuitively sharp there. So as early as I can remember, you know, going, you know, 5, 6 years old, I thought entrepreneurially. For whatever reason, I always wanted to make, do, and create. I remember, you know, when I was done with a toy, you know, essentially got bored of playing with that toy, I didn't just like leave it in the corner of my bedroom. I would actually collect the toys that I didn't want to use anymore. I wasn't interested anymore. And when I had enough of them, I would ask my older sister to come downstairs. You know, I grew up in Manhattan on 87th Street between First and Second Avenue. And I would lay out a sheet and I would put my toys out neatly lined up and sell them for as much money as I can get. It typically was $1 a toy. You know, and then I quickly began walking dogs in my neighborhood. And, you know, by the time I was 11 years old, I had 30 dogs that I was walking. I got a job in a video store as a delivery boy when I was 12. And a buddy of mine who was a year older, actually my business partner at the meatball shop, he was working in a vegan restaurant right up the street and said, hey, you know, you're delivering videos on rollerblades. Why don't you deliver food as well? And you can you can toggle back and forth. And I said, fantastic. So I'm now, you know, delivering food and videos all over, you know, the Upper East Side of New York City. And I really fell in love with the restaurant business. I fell in love with the restaurant business. I didn't have a great home childhood, you know, in terms of my home stuff. My father was physically and mentally ill, and so he made it very challenging, and we had a pretty rough relationship. And so any opportunity that I got to be out of the house, I took. And so I started working in restaurants, and that restaurant that hired me as a delivery boy gave me an opportunity to step into the kitchen and wash dishes and then prep cook. And then, you know, when I was 14, they allowed me to be a busboy. And then I left there and I got another job as a busboy, and I started to work my way up in the restaurant business. And by the time I was 15, 16 years old, I was working in the hottest nightclub in New York City as a barback. And I lied, you know, I got the job as an 18-year-old. I was really probably just before my 16th birthday. So I was able to finagle that. And I was living my best life. I had moved out of my parents' house when I was young, when I was 15 years old. So I was really sort of out on my own and making a great amount of money working in these nightlife establishments, and stayed in school, graduated high school, did a year and a half of college, realized college wasn't for me. But what I will say is that working at night really exposed me to a lot of great things. I wouldn't change it for a minute, but it also exposed me to a lot of the things that happen at night in New York City. You know, I partied hard and I drank hard, and I did things that were not amazing for my body. When I was 23 years old, it had gotten to a point where I needed to make a change. I knew that I had a lot more to offer than what I was putting out there. And so I decided to get sober. And I've been sober now for 17 plus years. But when that happened, everything in my life changed. I very quickly changed physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I started to put the plan in place for my future and career. And I got very serious about it. And so but I do want to say that fitness and nutrition really were the cornerstone of my success, and still are today the cornerstone of my success in business, family, personal life. I really do put it before everything and anything. And that gives me an opportunity to be a better father, husband, brother, son, friend, business owner, business partner, all those things, because I really do take care of myself first.
Right.
Anyway, so then I went on, I enrolled in culinary school, and while I was there, doing the chef's culinary program, Cornell put together a truncated associate's degree for their restaurant hospitality program. And they did that with Union Square Hospitality Group and the French Culinary Institute, where I went to school. And I decided to enroll in that, and I did that as well. So I did back-to-back degrees there, graduated, wrote a business plan, took me about a year. And then I dropped the business plan for the meatball shop in front of 20 regulars that would come to the restaurant, because I had worked there from when I was a kid. I got a job there when I was 20. And I opened up the meatball shop when I was 29. And I worked at the I worked at Frank Restaurant until a week before I opened the doors of the meatball shop. Lucky as I was at the time, 14 regulars wrote me a check to open up my first business. And my business partner, Daniel Holzman, and I found a location. We opened up the meatball shop on February 9th, 2010, right out of the pit of a recession. And it was a home run hit. We got a crash course in what it meant to be business owners. We paid back our investors in 6 months, raised a bunch of more money, opened up 5 more units over the next 3.5 years. I found out through that journey that what I really love is discovery, uncertainty, creativity, culture, design, team building. I did not love stamping out restaurant concepts or the same restaurant within a concept. I really enjoyed the creative component of it. I really loved the uncertainty of just, digging things up from scratch. And so I said to the partners, hey, I really want to go launch another brand. I would love to be able to step back as co-CEO and find another company. And so we took a year to figure out how to get me replaced, and so I can slowly zoom out. And I sold them the majority of my equity, and then I launched Seymour's, a sustainable seafood concept, in June of 2015, and on the corner of Broome and Mulberry Street. And that one was another successful venture. And by the way, all of this is not possible with the backbone of my sobriety, my fitness, and my nutrition. I just have to say that I've done a lot of work on myself over the years, and I'm not ashamed of it. I wouldn't have it any other way. And so I pushed really hard at Seymour's, and I attracted a mentor of mine. He was a mentor for a number of years, who fell in love with the brand of Seymour's. And he was running a big company called Le Pen Quotidien at the time. And after him seeing what I did with Seymour's, he approached me and said, I would love to leave Le Pen Quotidien and help you grow this brand as your partner. I was very hesitant to take on a partner, but he was one of the smartest guys I knew. I really had trusted him for many years as a mentor and a soundboard. And I said, okay, well, there's only one way I'd be comfortable doing this. You're 15 years my senior, and you've opened up way more restaurants than I have. So I can't be your boss. Like it wouldn't work if I was your boss. So I would bring you in as the CEO. I would take the president's seat at the company. We would go raise money. And in 3 to 4 years, after we've opened up 5 more restaurants together, I would try to, exit and launch another brand, because that's really what drives me. And we agreed on that. And that's exactly what we did. And in 2019, November 2019, I sold a bunch of my equity to the partners at Seymour's and started building my newest brand called Kreatures of Habit. Kreatures of Habit was a brand that I was developing that really aligned with my passion for wellness and nutrition and fitness and mindset. Habits are everything for me. They have been. They almost killed me. And as soon as I was able to shift from the bad ones to the good ones. They've made me the man I am today, which is a guy that I'm actually pretty proud of. It's all about habits for me. My morning routine is very, very structured. Everything in my life is pretty structured, but that gives me ultimate freedom because I know what I have to do. And I now know what I don't have to do. And that's all based around the habits that I have implemented over the years and stacked up, right? Like I
Right.
call my habit, they're wins. Every time I nail a habit in a specific succession, it's another win for the day. And they tend to, my real sort of habit string is in the morning. But anyway, Creatures of Habit was going to launch as a restaurant. And when the pandemic hit, that plan was no longer viable. And I always wanted to have a CPG company, a business and consumer packaged goods. So the vision and the trajectory for Creatures was going to be open one restaurant, use it as a marketing hub, obviously as a revenue generator for a restaurant, but not scale the restaurant model, use it as a lab slash incubation hub for a line of consumer packaged goods that had real-time feedback. So create products in the kitchen at the restaurant to then put out in a retail area in the front of the house, see what people were actually attracted to, and then invest money into those products and sell them direct to consumer and in retail brick and mortar. And when the pandemic hit, I made a decision to draw a line through the restaurant and go straight direct to consumer with Creatures of Habit. And I launched Creatures of Habit August of 2021. So we're about 3.5, 4 months in, and it's going very, very well. The product that I launched with, which is the one nutritional habit that I've stuck to for the last 17.5 years, which is my oatmeal in the morning. I'm a massive fan of oatmeal in the morning as my first meal of the day. And over the years, I've added a bunch of things to my oats. And so I decided to just take that formula and work with a food scientist to help me create a package that packs an incredible nutritional value punch and is delicious and is instant and sold in subscription over the internet. And it's working really, really well.
And is that just out of curiosity, does that come frozen, Michael, or what's
No,
the
so
like?
it's literally it's instant oats, like imagine Quaker oats.
Yep. Okay.
Like powder and actual oats. So in the product is gluten-free oats, 30 grams of plant-based protein, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D3, pink Himalayan salt, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, and a little organic maple sugar, a little stevia, and a little monk fruit. And it's made 4 different ways. You can make it overnight in the fridge. You can make it instantly by just adding hot water or throwing it into the microwave, or you can make a delicious smoothie out of it. So it's super versatile. It's a single serve pouch, comes in a box of 7, and it is killer.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you for that. You laid down a lot of stuff there, so I've got plenty of stuff to dive into here. And I guess the first thing I wanted to dive into is this this EQ thing. You said you've got a really smart EQ. And have you thought about, or do you know how you developed that, especially since you said you developed it pretty young? And I'm trying to think of myself even having an awareness of EQ. I don't think I had that until much later. And then whether I was any good at it or not, I think it's still sort of up in the air. But I'm curious where it came from, or where you think it came from.
It's a good question. I think that it's a culmination of a few things. I think I was sort of born with a gene. My grandmother is my whole, really, my father's side of the family, excluding him, unfortunately, but they're all very engaged they're very engaging people. They're great listeners. They're very creative. Everybody on that side is very creative. So I think I inherently had a gene of really wanting to loving people. Like I love people. I love the human connectivity. I love human engagement. I love making memories for people. I think that's a big part of my skill set, is really understanding how to create environments that people feel comfortable and good in.
Okay.
But I think, there's another element to it, that I had a really, really rough relationship with my father, and from Missouri, from a very young age. And I needed and slash wanted attention from someone like a father. So I learned early on that if I got people to like me, I would get that. I would get what I was looking for as a young kid, from friends, from teachers, from coaches, so I really figured out how to be a chameleon and
Mm.
not want to be the center of attention, but win with kindness, win with compassion, win with empathy, win with listening. I really never wanted to stand out in the crowd, but I was able to understand how to make myself somewhat of a magnet for positivity, because I wasn't getting a lot of it at home. And
Okay.
so, as opposed to what a lot of people tend to do, is they have a tough childhood or a tough relationship with their parents, or it's not the best situation, they tend to, bring that forward. In my case, I believe that I consciously broke the chain and wanted something totally different. And I can say for sure now in my life, I've definitely broke the chain, because I'm a father of two children that I love more than anything and have an amazing relationship with. And I have a really healthy, successful marriage. I've been married for almost 15 years, and my wife and I have been together for 17 years. So, if anybody's listening here and wondering if change is possible, or your past does not have to predict your present or future. The past is history, and it really does not have to weigh heavily on what's happening right now, and definitely not what the future looks like. And I'm a living, breathing example of that.
I really liked how you said you sort of consciously broke the chain, because as I think about, and I did not have that experience growing up, as I think about experiences that I've become familiar with, there's often a conscious desire to break the chain, but not an understanding of how to do it if you're raised a certain way. You may not, you don't like it, but it's hard to get away from it. And it seems like you mentally and maybe spiritually broke away from it, but you also physically broke away from it because you left at an early
Yeah.
age as well. And what about mom? What was her role with?
Yeah, so I have a great relationship with my mother. My mom was also a victim of abuse from my dad, more mental than anything, more mental, verbal abuse than anything. But she was diagnosed with, abused wife syndrome. She was really shell shocked. And so she didn't know how to deal with it. Like none of us knew how to deal with it. And, my dad really, I mean, I love him and I know that he loved me. My dad just really was not meant. He was sick, he was sick, very sick physically. He died very young. He died at 57. He had a heart condition. He was a juvenile diabetic. And I think that plagued him. It really prevented him from doing what he wanted to do in life. And so he was really angry, and I don't, at this point, I've really made peace with it and I don't fault him for it.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, I have a few tattoos on my body that, that commemorate him. And he taught me some things that I do believe have helped shape the man I am today. My father was very, very, he was an intense dude. And, there are three things that he instilled in me as a child that I walk with today, with pride. He taught me that, and I think they're very important. when you meet somebody for the first time, you make eye contact and you give a firm handshake, and you do those two things at the same time, with intent and intention, and so that is very important to me. My father also was a real gentleman, when he was out and about, and he made it a point to hold the door for everyone, specifically women. Respect for women was major in his life. He really had this, high level of chivalry that really made an impression on me. And then the last thing that he taught me, which I honestly do believe is a valuable lesson, is every single time you use the bathroom as a man, you lift up the toilet seat, and when you're done, you put the toilet seat back down. And there's nothing worse for me. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I walk into a bathroom and there's urine all over the toilet seat, and a guy just walks out, and I'm just like, I mean, that's just absolute disrespect. So that is that those three things are something that my father was very adamant about teaching me as a young kid, and they've stuck with me. And now I've passed them on to my kids. Every night before my kids go down, my wife and I go back and forth on putting our sons down. They're 4 and 6, and my kids and I have the 9 things. And every night that I put them down, I say, all right, guys, let's do it. Let me hear the 9 things. And the 9 things are: number 1, I'm always going to protect my brother. Number 2, ladies always go first. Number 3, squeeze in eyes. Number 4, remember people's names. Number 5, always put the toilet seat up when you use the bathroom. Number 6, always put the toilet seat down when you're done using the bathroom. Number 7, when you're walking across the street, look to the left. Number 8, when you're walking across the street, look to the right. And number 9, I love you. And nice. So those are the 9 things that I walk through with my sons. They say it very fast. They've got it down to a science. And I say that with them right after I sing Stand By Me, which is the song I've been singing to them every night since they're born. And I owe that to my dad. So, yeah.
It seems weird. Like your dad's sort of a dichotomy, like inside the house, maybe he's one way, and outside of the house, he's different. Like I think of you're a person like your dad walking through the neighborhood, and everyone would have this impression based on what you just talked about, as that was definitely different than what you had inside. It reminds me of my dog I used to have that was the most well-behaved dog inside, but when you let her out, if she wasn't on a leash or wasn't tied up somewhere, she was gone. And I know that's not a direct great example, but it just reminded me of that dichotomy.
No, look, you kind of nailed it. My dad was he was liked by a lot of people, and some people not so much. My dad had a really bad temper, and if you got on the wrong side of him, he was a tough guy. He was not an easy guy to deal with, but he had some values. My grandfather was in the military. He was a hardcore military guy. He was a lieutenant commander in the Navy, and he stayed in the military for years and years after World War II. And so he was a tough guy to please, although my grandfather was sort of a monument in my life. He really was like the only successful person in the whole family outside of myself. He, after the military, he became an entrepreneur, and, built a business in cardboard boxes. And, he was, and my father too was an entrepreneur. He was an electrician, but he had his own electrician company and lighting design and electrician company until he got too sick to work. So I do have the entrepreneurial gene in my blood, that's for sure. I come from a string of entrepreneurs.
I definitely feel the toilet seat thing too, because my whole family is girls, women, and so I'm been very cognizant of that for 30 some years, and I can always tell when a strange man, when an outsider has been in my house, because I'll walk into one of the bathrooms. the toilet seat will be up. Like, okay, I did not do that. So someone was here.
I'll
I don't know.
make a mention here though. Something that I learned about rather recently. It's not just men that tinkle on the toilet seat.
Oh, well, yeah. That's like the hover thing, right? The porta
Yeah,
potty, the
it's
porta
the
potty
hover
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned the business plan that you had for the meatball shop and the 14 folks who went along with it. And I just did a podcast earlier today with another entrepreneur who said, I've never had a business plan. I've started 6, 7 companies, never had a business plan. Now, he never needed outside financing for his business. So I get why he didn't have one. But my question to you is, how different was the actual trajectory of the business from the business plan that you created and showed to those initial investors?
Well, the business plan that we put forth in front of the investors had us doing moderately well.
Okay.
And the business itself crushed it. So,
Yeah, okay.
the difference was, we projected 1.5 million, I think, in sales in year one, and we did just under 4 million.
Okay.
And so, that was really the big difference. In the business plan, we didn't really talk much about scaling the business. We really wanted to focus on the business. And very quickly, we learned that scaling the business was something that we would need to do because of how successful the first one was. And people were coming from all over New York City and the tri-state area to eat with us. And so we really wanted to be able to expand. So we started to putting plans in place within the first year to open up the second and third restaurant.
Okay. So in the business plan, it was a single location. Here's how we're going to grow the business. And then you underpromised and over-delivered, I guess I would say. And congratulations. That's phenomenal when you have something that is enough for people to want to back you on, and then you blow that out of the water. That doesn't happen very often, Michael. So that's a tremendous accomplishment. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
And then you mentioned with Seymour's that you were reticent or reluctant to take on a partner, if I heard you right. But with Meatball Shop, it was you and your best friend from growing up, Daniel. So you had a partnership there. What changed between the two that had you, open to partnership and then not wanting necessarily to have a partner?
Yeah, partnership is an area where I fail as a business person. Partnership is really difficult for me because I am a visionary. I really am, the motivation for the creativity behind the business. And in many areas, I am comfortable taking a backseat when it comes to operations, logistics, finance. I'm very comfortable saying, you know what, this is not my area of expertise. I understand it. I have to understand it to be a business guy, but I don't want to pretend to be the one to step up and run that department.
Okay.
When it comes to large scale decision making about like the macro view of the plan, I'm very strict on my vision, and I really don't play in the sandbox well when others want to change that vision. And so, people have asked me, because I have had a successful career, people have asked me, well, where do you fail? And that's where I fail. I choose to do business in a partnership. However, I'm not willing to share the vision. I really need to be at the helm of where the business is going. And I don't like when people, contest that. Now, I will say I've learned my lesson twice with Meatball Shop and Seymour's, though I've done well in both businesses, the partnerships were very difficult for me. I launched Creatures without a partner. I will not have a partner.
Okay.
And what I've learned to do is actually find really incredible people to surround myself with and listen to them with intent and respect and humility, and knowing that I have the control of whether to say, you know what, I'm going to take your advice, or you know what, I'm going to go forward with my plan.
Right.
And that, I believe, for someone like me, is much more of a successful model. It definitely makes it more difficult. There's no doubt about it, not having a co-founder. The responsibility of every single thing is on my shoulders. But I'm comfortable that way. That actually inspires me to be stronger, to be better, to be sharper. And I think also what I've learned over my 11 years as a business owner is that micromanagement never works. I'm a terrible micromanager in terms of I just don't do it. I'd much rather hire slow and fire fast. So I really take my time when it comes to bringing people on the team of who I think I can work with and who I think will be a self-starter and not someone that's going to need my hand-holding or micromanaging, because I will fail there too. If I have somebody on the team that needs an enormous amount of attention, I've got a bunch of things going on at all times, and following up on whether or not, this email was written or that thing was paid, or, it's just not a strong suit of mine.
Right.
So I really surround myself with sharp people that are much smarter than me, so that I can not only learn from them to sharpen my skills in the arenas that I'm not great at, but also so that I don't have to worry about areas in the business that are not my strong suit. And also, I don't have to worry about those people trying to overstep their boundaries because they have a certain amount of equity that can potentially, win a board decision.
Yeah. It's sort of the double edge of sort of partnership, there's a lot of advantages to partnerships, and there's a lot of potential disadvantages to partnerships, but you don't know what any of them are, even if you write them out, very thoughtfully go through it, write them all out, sort of a pro and con, until you get a person in a situation. You really don't know. You can't anticipate exactly how you're going to react, and you can't anticipate how they're going to react. And that's often though it's those types of situations, I think, that often end up causing the initial sort of headbutt, and then you're kind of like, where do we go from here? So it's tough, and I appreciate you sharing your experience, because, and I appreciate you sharing that you've made the decision that partners aren't for you. That's a bold decision, but a very self-aware one too. And
I'm also an athlete, right? So I've been competing in sports since I changed my life in 2004. And the sports that I've chosen to compete in, I've been a marathon endurance runner, which is a solo sport. I've competed in Muay Thai kickboxing for years. It's a solo sport. I just came off of a bodybuilding competition that I've now done, 3 different bodybuilding competitions. It's a solo sport. And so when there is a level of performance that requires an enormous amount of work, dedication, commitment, mindset, focus, I like to wear the weight of that on my shoulders, comfortable there, when I have to worry about other people, and don't get me wrong, like, I love working with others and I work well with others, but when it comes to the ultimate decisions, are we going to do this? Are we not going to do this? Am I, I'm better flying solo.
And you said before that partnership, and the way you described it, is where you fail. And it made me think, why do you position it that way? I mean, why is it a failure that you have determined through the experiences that you have had what feels right to you as an entrepreneur or founder?
Well, for me, I actually strive for failure. I don't look at failure as a negative thing. I look at failure as truly a learning experience. And so when people ask me where I fail, I really have learned so much more from the areas that I have not, that the outcome has not been a massive victory for me, right? Like having to, break up with my partner at the meatball shop was the most challenging thing I've ever had to go through in my life, probably. Outside of maybe getting
Outside of
sober,
addiction, right?
my best friend, and thank God, Daniel and I took about 4 years off from communicating and being friends, and now we're right back to best friends again. I'm going out to LA to see him in a couple of days now, but it was very, very difficult. It was grueling. It was painful, but I'd never learned so much in my life about myself, about where I shine and where I'm dull and where I need to sharpen, about self-awareness. And so, I also, where I really had a lesson to learn was in me partnering again with someone that I thought was right for me as a partner and ultimately was not. And about a year into our relationship, I realized that I had made a catastrophic mistake. And that was a hard one to swallow. And I found myself in a pattern, choosing partners that I thought were going to be right for me and ultimately not being right, and so I had to figure out how to, I have a lot of tattoos. I'm a creative guy and kind of collect them. And my grandmother used to say something to me that is so powerful, that I've really implemented into my life. She used to say, because, I would talk to her. She was my father's mother. I would talk to her a lot about my relationship with my dad. And my grandmother was the most wonderful person, spiritual, like just impactful person in my life. And she used to say, Mike, you can't change anybody. You've got to say to yourself this mantra: bless you, change me. Bless you, change me. Wish them well. And if you want to feel differently about the situation, you've got to change yourself. So wish them well before you go into a meeting, before you go into a family dinner, before you go into any situation where you believe that something not awesome can happen. Before you walk in, truly close your eyes and wish that person or those people well with sincerity, and understand that if you want the outcome to feel better for you, you are going to have to change. Do not expect them to. And so I got that tattooed right here on my arm. It says, bless you, change me, right there.
Nice.
And it's important to me. That's a good one. It really has helped me in many, many situations where I've just had to be like, you know what, Mike, you are walking in with a prerequisite of pain. Change your mentality, change your mindset right now. Wish that person well with like a sincere well wish for that person, and then change how you perceive them. And you might have to do it every single time, but it works.
Well, that was very wise advice, because as you were talking about that and showing me, I was thinking about the energy that you waste approaching it differently. Like, I'm going to change, I have to change this person. That's a huge responsibility to put on yourself, and also very frustrating when you can't do it. So if you just reverse it, just change the way you think about it. I got to bless you, change me, right? I love that. That's really nice. How do you decide what you're going to, besides that one, how do you decide what tattoos you're going to put on you, on your body?
All my tattoos have a really great story, or I'd like to think of them as really great stories. So whenever there's a moment in time where, my life has been impacted, I make room, you know. I mark moments in time throughout my life. Every tattoo I have, I catch a glimpse of it. It reminds me of a moment in time that was either really incredible or sometimes really challenging and sad. That my left arm is dedicated to the people that are no longer with us and that have made an impact on my life, and my right arm is really dedicated to my father and my grandmother, and my mom. And my legs are tattooed with Muay Thai warrior shorts, from my hips all the way down to just above my knees, and got my kids' names tattooed on my quads. I've got these huge angels tattooed on my back, and one resembles sobriety for me, and the other one is my wife, because they came kind of together, and
Sure.
and really saved my life. And yeah, I got a bunch of stuff like that really are just, tattoos have just given me an opportunity to really not forget the things that have shaped me.
That could be an interesting book for you, to, to really get inside of Michael Chernow, through, body art. I think that would be super interesting. Because as you were saying, I thought we should do a whole podcast on your tattoos, because the stories in those are probably not ones you tell all the time. Like maybe some of them you do and some of them you don't. It'd be a very interesting sort of discovery, I think.
Yeah, let's do it.
What's the most recent one you've added?
What is the most recent one? The most recent one was on Father's Day. I got my I got my kids' names tattooed on my quads.
Oh, okay.
And then before that, I got this tattoo on my hand that says "Discipline equals freedom." I had just read Jocko Willink's book, The Dichotomy of Leadership.
Sure.
And he essentially described my happiness very clearly. I'd never heard that said before. Discipline equals freedom. My life is incredibly disciplined, and a lot of people associate discipline with negativity. And for me, discipline is everything.
So I want to dig into that with the time we have left, if you don't mind, because you had mentioned habits at the beginning, and I'm a huge believer in habits, and habits and discipline are often connected. When you think about habits, do you, and I think you mentioned sort of good habits and bad habits, and I wondered, is that how you really think about habits, or do you think about, these are the habits that I have now, whether they're good or bad, I suppose is kind of up to interpretation. The real question is, are these the habits that I want to have right now? And if the answer is no, how do I replace that habit? Or can you add habits without getting rid of habits? I'm just curious how you think about it in general.
It's a really great question, and I actually have not thought much about that specifically. So I'm excited to see what comes out of my mouth. When you first said it, I immediately went to, when you are a person who lives a life of positive habit, the word habit is what defines you as a positive human being. And when you're a person who lives a life of bad habit is definitely not a positive thing. And it is the thing that is most likely preventing you from progressing. Today, when I think of habit, I never think of it as a bad thing. I only think of it as a good thing, because the habits that I have today are what paint the picture of my life on a daily basis, which
Well,
happens to.
if I heard you right and looking at your hand, the habits that you have right now, you equate with freedom.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Without a doubt, just absolutely. And look, I'm far from perfect, but I know that I have an opportunity every single day to be better. And that doesn't mean better than yesterday. That just means better, right? Feeling better. Feeling better is better than feeling worse. And so, and every day we get a clean slate. You cannot do anything yesterday, and you simply cannot do anything in an hour from now. You can only do right now. And so if you live that way, where, you realize that like all you can really do, you can only do anything right now, you can change what the rest of your day looks like. It's just that simple. Great decisions make great decisions. And so I start my day every day with a long list of habits that are no longer a list. It's just my life.
Right.
I wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, somewhere between 4:30 and 5. I don't use an alarm, but I never sleep past 5. I wake up very, very early. The first thing I do is I walk into the bathroom. I brush my teeth. I wash my face. I drop down on my knees and I ask the universe for help. I have a prayer that I've been saying every single day for many, many years. Not a religious guy, but, believe in the universe and believe in positive energy. And then I do 50 push-ups. I get up, I put some face moisturizer on my face, so I feel like I'm doing something that's going to help keep me young and fresh and clean. And then I sneak out of the bedroom, and actually, that's not true. The first thing I do every single morning, the moment I'm awake, is I smile. I smile for 15 seconds. As soon as I know I'm awake, I like a real shit-eating grin. I flip up my eye mask and I smile from ear to ear, and immediate gratitude starts my day. A lot of people wake up, including myself, with anxiety. And so I just beat down that anxiety right away. And then I make my way into the bathroom. And then when I'm done with that, I walk downstairs. I have about 20 ounces of water with pink Himalayan salt and half a squeeze of half a lemon. And then I make my athletic greens and I start a pot of coffee. And then I sit down at the breakfast nook, light 2 candles, and meditate for anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes while my coffee's brewing. Coffee's done brewing, walk over, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, open up my journal, and I plan out my day, my daily planner and my journal. And then after that, sometimes my kids are up and sometimes I get the time to read 10 pages out of a book. But I try to read 10 pages every day out of a book early in the morning. And then my kids are up and I hang out with them for about an hour while they eat breakfast and we just hang out. And then they go off to school. My wife takes them to school most days. And then I go into the gym and I work out from like 7:30 to 9, typically, 6 days a week. And then as soon as I get out of there, I have my protagonist, which is my oatmeal from Creatures of Habit. And I take a shower and I say a little gratitude list in the shower. And then I sit down at my desk and I work. And that's my morning every day, even on the weekends.
Even on Sundays and
Even on Sundays. Sundays is typically my off day from the gym, and I don't sit down at the desk. I reserve Saturday and Sunday for being with my family. So instead of sitting down at the desk at 9:30 in the morning, I'm hanging with the fam. But that's my day every single day, 7 days a week. I can't wait to go to bed at night so that I can start that in the morning. I'm like so excited to pass out at 9:30 every night so that I can start my day in the morning like that.
And just curious, is your wife's schedule similar to yours?
No.
Okay, because mine is totally different as well. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, my wife is, she thinks I'm crazy, but she's totally supportive of what I do. And I mean, she's the rock of my life. She's everything. And Yeah, she supports me. She does think I'm, she knows I'm extreme. I mean, I am extreme.
Right.
I don't like open a business. I've got to open a bunch. I don't run a marathon. I've got to run, 10. I don't lift weights. I compete in bodybuilding competitions. It's I'm an extreme guy, but I really do think what drives me there is the level of passion for the uncertainty in life and the discovery and the curiosity and being able to help other people, being of service in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just being a motivational, thing or person that somebody sees throughout the day doing something that could potentially inspire them to want to flip the switch.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll just say that you have this I would say it's a reserved intensity. So I can see that, and when you talk about this intensity that you have, but it's very reserved the way that it comes across. And I feel like that's very disarming in a good way, because some people who are very intense all the time. And people are like, whoa, that dude's really intense, but you're kind of like, at least from what I'm seeing from you today, you're a little bit different than that. I do appreciate you walking through your habits, because I'm a big habit advocate, as I mentioned, and athletic greens are something I've been doing for 3 years or so myself. So I do believe in that product as well. So where do you want people to connect with you? I mean, I gave out your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook at the beginning, your website. I didn't give out Creatures of Habit though. So that's with a K, is that right? Or
yeah, Creatures of Habit with a K. So,
yeah.
I think the best way to follow along with what I'm doing is at Michael Chernow, predominantly on Instagram. That's where I put out a lot of my content. But it would mean the world to me if your listeners would check out Creatures of Habit. And I'd be happy to offer a 10% off discount. So for anybody that's listening that wants to give Creatures of Habit a shot, I'd love to offer a 10% discount code for everyone out there. You can use code HOWDITHAPPEN, HOWDITHAPPEN, How Did Happen, for 10% off the first purchase. Yeah, that would mean the world to me, because I think we're doing some really amazing things, and the more people I can help, the better. And it's really been a product that people have really taken into their lives, and it's helped motivate them to kick their days off with a positive habit. Yeah, so check out Creatures of Habit with a K on creaturesofhabit.com. You can also check out Creatures of Habit on Instagram to see what we're doing there. At Michael Chernow on social media. And I'm launching a new podcast soon. I just pushed pause on Born or Made. And
Oh, you did? Okay.
I'm launching the Creatures of Habit podcast in the new year, which I'm really excited about. So that'll be fun. It'll be a habit-focused podcast.
Love it. Love it. Well, Michael, it's been so much fun exploring your story, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing so many different things we covered. And I do wish we had time to do a lot more. I like I do think that's a good book thing for your tattoo stories, by the way. I will personally get the protagonist, because I want to try that and see if that'll become more of my daily habit. I eat Magic Spoon now with blueberries and some grain-free granola. That's sort of, and a little bit of plain yogurt. That's sort of my little morning thing, but I'm definitely willing to try something different. So I will definitely give it a go, and I'll let you know how I like it. So thanks for the offer, and thanks for coming on the podcast. It's been a real pleasure.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me.